Good morning and welcome to lesson 4 of our mini lessons. These are those sneak peeks at the Priestess Path curriculum. And lesson 4 is really all about bringing together what we have learned thus far and creating ritual. So, creating ritual is really a powerful way to tap into your magic, to bring things into being, to honor rites of passage. You can use ritual in so many different ways. And this is why it is part of the foundational practices that we start the Priestess Path with. So, before I launch into actually like the nuts and bolts of putting together a ritual, I want to talk about intention because intention is at the very core of every single magical working you do. You have to have a reason you're doing it. And the more concise and clear your reason is, the more focused your energy can become. So maybe there's like 5 things you want to bring into being or, create. And it can be really good to sit down and write out, here's my intention. This is what I want to make happen. And when you start to pull those pieces apart, it's probably wiser to create 5 separate rituals or to see where the overlap is, where you can hone an intention to maybe pull a couple pieces together than trying to do all 5 in one. And the reason being is that when we start, like I said, you want to hone your energy, you want to hone your focus. So if your intention has all these different pieces to it, I want to do this, and then that's going to make this happen. Your energy is getting split in all these different directions. And whatever you do in a ritual or a ceremony or a spell is not going to have the same honed focus. It's not going to have all the juice because the juice is going to be splintering. So I hope that makes sense. So anytime you're going to do any type of magical work, you want to ask yourself, what's my intention? Even if it's just pulling a card for the day, what's your intention when you pull that card for the day? Is it to get a little guidance, to get a little insight? Is it just to have something to reflect or meditate on? Really be clear about why you're doing what you're doing and what your purpose of doing what you're doing is. So we didn't talk about intention yet. We've talked about some of these more nuts and bolts pieces and energies that we work with when we're creating a ritual and just in magic in general. But we didn't talk about specifically about intention. And because in order to create a ritual, you really need an intention, I bring that to the forefront here. So if we were going to craft a ritual, say, we would want to come up with the reason we're crafting it. And with that reason, we would want to have some type of action that we were going to do, some way that we were going to raise energy, some way we were going to work with that intention in the core of our ritual. And so that's a piece that is really, I guess I would just say there's a myriad of ways to do that. Some of the traditional ways, if you've been to like public rituals, often they'll do things like movement or chanting, or there'll be like a meditation that leads into some type of sound work. Sometimes it's bringing items together, even that fun little altar exercise we did in our last class, that's something you could do collectively in a group. And I have done that collectively in a group. It's really fun. It raises the energy and it brings it to a focal point. And if you have an intention beforehand, then you've just done the heart of your ritual. So, so really, we want to come up with your intention. You want to come up with what action or motion or thing that you're going to do in the middle of the ceremony to raise that energy and to send it out into the world. Now, the pieces that we've talked about thus far are grounding and clearing, the elements, and sacred space. So how does all that tie into a ritual? Well, if you've done ritual with me before, then you know that I tend to start every single ritual with a clearing. So the idea here is clearing off anything that's not yours that might be distracting you from being present. So letting all of that go so you can be fully present for the ritual that's about to happen. Then we ground. So we cleared out all the funk. Now we're grounding ourselves down. So that's the next step, right? So we're talking really about these building blocks of ritual. So you ground your energy down, you open yourself to that conduit space, to being able to channel energy, to work with energy, to move energy. And then we create a circle. So I talked a little bit about this last time about how you might create a circle. And again, there's so many ways to do this. But you're going to create some type of space around you, whether physically, energetically, visualizing it, whatever it might be. My dog is a chorus in the background, so I apologize for that. Uh, anyway, so you're going to create this sacred space after you've cleared and grounded. And then we call in the directions. And we call in the directions to call in their energies, both to help hold that container of our sacred space, but also to help bring energies into our ritual. So if you know that you're doing a ritual that's signifying some type of transformation or change, maybe you're really highlighting that when you're calling in fire. When you're moving to the south and you're calling that fire energy in, maybe you're really focusing on please bring in their energy of transformation and change, or that phoenix energy of rising from the ashes. So you can really create these invocations to call the directions using whatever properties of those directions you're wanting to connect with in your ritual. You can also do it much more generalized, just working with the directions as their own entities. But if you want to add a little extra oomph to whatever your intention is, you can pull on those energies of the elements as you call them into your circle and into your corners, your space. So once you've done all of that, then we move into that sort of heart of the ritual. I was going to say the meat of the ritual, but as a vegetarian, I was like, maybe the tofu of the ritual, the vegetables of the ritual, but that core piece where we're going to be doing that raising of energy. So again, as I said, there's a myriad of ways to do that, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details about that today. Um, Perhaps you have played with ritual before. Perhaps you've read books that have guided you through different rituals, or maybe you've come and hung out with me and been a part of some ritual in that way. But really, what you're going to do in that next part is to raise energy in some way, focus. Maybe it's chanting, maybe it's bringing items together. Maybe it's movement. Maybe it's just deep meditation and, listening for messages. Whatever it is for you, you're going to do that piece. And then you're going to release some of that energy. So sometimes just completing whatever that task was and opening the circle feels like a release. Sometimes you're going to want to intentionally, like if you've really, I know sometimes when I've done like a lot of movement in ritual or done a lot of like drumming where it just feels like the energy's getting up and up, there's ways to imagine letting that go or re-earthing it before you even open the circle so that you're able to kind of clear your own energetic space so you're not walking out like, whoa, because that can definitely happen when you're dealing with energy work. So then once you've completed that piece of it, then you move into releasing your directions, opening your circle, and your ritual is then complete. So really, the point of this talk today is to really show you how these foundational pieces, although they can be used individually, can also be used to really craft a ritual for yourself or for other people, however you want to do that. And just a quick word on rituals. I talked about intention, but rituals can really have any kind of intention. So maybe it's something like honoring the lunar cycle. Maybe you're doing a full moon ritual and working with that lunar, maybe this big energetic full moon, maybe it's a super moon, maybe it's an eclipse. Maybe you're really working with what's happening in the world around you. Or seasonally, perhaps you're doing something for, I think our next holiday is Lunisad. So maybe you're doing a ceremony around this first harvest festival. Or maybe you're doing a ceremony for something for yourself. We do a lot of different rituals in the world that we don't even think about as being rituals. Things like graduation or wedding, or even if you have regular meetings with people around, like we do family dinner on Friday nights, or this is game night. Those are all rituals in and of, they probably have very certain ways that they play out when you do them regularly. And there are elements of ritual in that. Sure, you're not crafting a circle and you're not probably calling in the directions, but you probably have ways that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end and release of that energy. So you can kind of as you start to think about ritual, you can start to see how this plays out in the world around you in some of our day-to-day mundane tasks. And then you can start to really apply this to your own magical craft. What's the beginning, the middle, and the end? How am I creating my sacred space? How am I, executing the thing that I want to do, that I want to work with? And then how am I releasing all of that? Other things you might consider doing rituals for are things like that you want to manifest. So maybe it's like, I'm looking for this new job, or I'm wanting to feel more confident, or I'm wanting to let go of this crap that I've been holding on to, or break these patterns that maybe I've been living. There's lots of ways to use ceremony. Maybe it's connecting with the land that you live on or a place that you're visiting that feels really powerful. Anyway, again, this is just like, here's all these things. But the nutshell of what I want you to walk away with today is, here's the things we've learned so far. Here's how we use them to create ritual, including your intention. And here's how we release that and step into our next thing that we're doing. So that's what I have for you today. Just a short, sweet little lesson. When we come back together on Monday, we're going to be talking about the maiden, mother, and crone and the energies of those archetypes and how those can show up for us and how we might consider working with them. Specifically, I'll talk about how we do that in the Priestess Path, and we'll do a little exercise together around that. Until then, be well. Have a wonderful day. Maybe create some ritual. I don't know. Now that you have all these tools for your toolbox, maybe between now and the next time we meet, you decide to craft yourself a little ritual and see what happens. Anyway, thank you so much for being here, and take good care.